Hi, so today I thought that I would take a quick look at something that I find really fun, which is why it's impossible to proofread your own work and why we all need a little bit of help now and again to look through what we've written. So just to start out, I'm going to show you a couple of random sort of memes that have gone around the internet in the past. And they provide quite an interesting insight into how the brain processes language. So this is the first one. If you pause the video and read through, and then I'll read it afterwards in case you're struggling. Okay, so it reads, Original Cambridge study. According to a research at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters in a word are, the only important thing is that the first and last letter be at the right place. The rest can be a total mess and you can still read it without problem. This is because the human mind does not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole. Okay, and the second one. Again, pause it and then I'll read it afterwards. Okay, this one's a little bit harder, but it says, this message serves to prove how our minds can do amazing things, impressive things. In the beginning, it was hard, but now, on this line, your mind is reading it automatically without even thinking about it. Be proud, only certain people can read this. Please share if you can read this. Okay, so that first one very clearly was not from Cambridge University. I think the grammar gave that away quite early on. But we also know that because Cambridge themselves issued a site, a webpage explaining the science behind that text. And I've linked to it below. And what it actually says is that there is a difference. It's not as easy to read words when the letters are jumbled about, but you can still do it quite easily, but you are a bit slower at doing that. But that is an entire piece of text that's been jumbled around. But imagine in your own work, you're only sort of, maybe there's only one letter in the entire word or an entire paragraph that's out of place. And you've seen your brain can quite easily just gloss over that as though it isn't there. And it does it especially well when it already knows what the text is. So for instance, sometimes people ask me to edit a piece of work and they'll say, so what did you think about it before you start editing it? And I don't read a piece of work before I start to proof and edit, because the moment I've read it once, my brain will fill in the gaps every time that I read it after that. So if I want to look at something with fresh eyes, to look for the errors in the text, I'm going to do that on my first read. Now, the second one's also quite interesting. I found the second one a lot harder to read with the numbers in there in place of letters. But again, it's not entirely accurate because it says only certain people can read this. I would hazard that most native English speakers can read that without much problem. I think maybe if you're dyslexic, it would be harder. I think as well, and I'd like to know this, if you're a second language English speaker, can you still read that quite easily, or is that no? And also I'd like to know, does it work in other languages? Are there similar word plays with different languages? Because I'm assuming that, especially the first one where the letters are mixed around, that works in any language. But I'd love to know, so do let me know. But that, in a nutshell, is why it's pretty much impossible to proofread your own work, because your mind already knows what it says and it will just woof as though there is no problem there. But yeah, let me know what your techniques for overcoming that are. My favourite one is that I use Word's text-to-speech function. So after I finish writing something, I will get my computer to read it back to me. And it doesn't work on homonyms, which are words that sound the same but have a different meaning, like there, and there, or which and which. that text to speech doesn't help, but it does help if you've accidentally written, say, ob instead of of, or if you've made a spelling error that your eyes haven't quite picked up. So that helps me to cut down on my own errors, but I always like somebody else to read through as well afterwards. So let me know how you cope with proofreading and editing your own work, and if you've got any tricks to get around that sort of error typo blindness.